A forklift lurched forward one bright morning and tipped its load without a second thought, sending hundreds of dusty glass jars crashing across an empty patch of neglected land. Workers laughed, called them worthless, and drove away, believing they had buried another year's worth of garbage where nobody cared to look. What they never imagined was that a lonely black boy standing behind an old fence was watching every single jar sparkle beneath the afternoon sun, not as trash, but as the first pieces of a future that would one day feed thousands of families and build a Pantry brand worth more than $400,000. Before we begin this unforgettable journey, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please like this video, leave a thoughtful comment, share this story with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that remind us that greatness often begins where others see nothing at all. Every sunny morning for 10 straight years, delivery trucks rolled toward the forgotten edge of Ashton Ridge, a struggling farming town where abandoned fields stretched beneath wide blue skies. They carried damaged glass jars rejected by factories because of crooked labels, tiny scratches, mismatched lids, faded printing, or cosmetic imperfections that stores refused to display. None of the jars were dangerous. Most were perfectly usable. Yet companies considered them ruined inventory and cheaper to dump than repair. The trucks always stopped beside the same neglected property owned by an aging widow named Meredith Holloway. Years earlier, she had allowed the dumping because the companies paid just enough to cover rising property taxes. As time passed, the payments became smaller while the piles grew larger until the land looked like a glittering sea of forgotten glass reflecting endless daylight. Living beside Meredith was her grandson, Callum Barrett, a quiet black boy whose life had never been easy. His parents had died in a highway accident when he was very young, leaving Meredith to raise him with little more than determination, kindness, and an old farmhouse that constantly needed repairs. Money was scarce. Every dollar mattered. While other children dreamed about expensive toys, Callum dreamed about fixing broken things. He collected cracked buckets, bent nails, weathered boards, rusty hinges, and discarded tools because he believed everything deserved another chance if someone cared enough to see its hidden value. People in town pitied him but rarely respected him. They joked that he lived beside the county's largest trash pile. Children giggled whenever school buses passed the mountain of jars glimmering beneath the daytime sun. Adults quietly shook their heads, convinced the boy's future had already been buried beneath broken dreams and unwanted glass. Callum heard every whisper, but Meredith always reminded him that people's opinions changed faster than the weather whenever success appeared. She encouraged him to keep working, keep learning, and never measure his worth through someone else's judgment. As the years passed, Callum noticed something nobody else bothered to see. The rejected jars came in hundreds of sizes and shapes. Some were tall enough for pasta. Others fit homemade jams perfectly. Many had decorative patterns molded into the glass that looked surprisingly elegant after careful cleaning. Only a tiny percentage were actually cracked beyond repair. The overwhelming majority had been discarded simply because their appearance failed commercial standards. Every afternoon after finishing school, Callum carefully sorted the newest arrivals beneath bright sunshine, separating usable jars from broken glass. He washed them with rainwater collected in barrels, removed damaged labels, polished the glass until it gleamed, and stacked them inside an old wooden barn. By the time he graduated, thousands upon thousands of spotless jars filled every shelf. Visitors laughed whenever they peeked inside the barn. They called it the world's strangest museum. Even Meredith sometimes wondered whether the collection had become too large, yet she never discouraged her grandson because she recognized the peaceful determination shining in his eyes whenever he worked. One warm spring afternoon, a local farmer's market opened nearby. Several vendors complained about expensive food packaging. Many small growers made excellent jams, pickles, sauces, honey, dried herbs, and preserves but struggled to afford attractive containers. Imported jars had become increasingly expensive, forcing many families to sell products in plain plastic tubs that customers often ignored. Callum sensed an opportunity hiding in plain sight. He loaded several clean jars onto an old trailer and spent an entire sunny Saturday visiting market stalls. Instead of asking people to buy the jars immediately, he simply handed each vendor one beautifully polished container and encouraged them to compare it with what they currently used. The response surprised everyone. The glass felt heavier, looked clearer, and displayed homemade foods beautifully despite the tiny cosmetic flaws that had once condemned the jars as worthless. Vendors eagerly returned asking for hundreds more. Within weeks, Callum had sold thousands of restored jars while barely making a dent in the enormous supply covering the property. The first meaningful income Meredith had seen in years arrived steadily, allowing them to repair leaking roofs, replace failing fences, and restore neglected farmland. Still, Callum believed the jars themselves were only the beginning. He noticed something else during countless conversations with local families. Many people knew how to grow vegetables, preserve fruit, or bake traditional recipes, yet they lacked confidence to market their products professionally. Some possessed treasured family recipes passed down through generations but had never imagined strangers would pay for them. Others produced exceptional pickled vegetables or fruit preserves but struggled with branding, packaging, or distribution. Rather than simply selling empty jars, Callum began offering something much bigger. He invited neighbors to use the cleaned containers while teaching simple labeling techniques, food safety practices, and attractive presentation. Instead of competing against local families, he built partnerships with them. Every bright afternoon, the old barn transformed into a cheerful workshop filled with grandparents, teenagers, struggling parents, and retired farmers sharing recipes, laughter, and encouragement. The atmosphere changed the entire neighborhood. The same land once mocked as a dumping ground slowly became known as a place where forgotten things found purpose again. Then disaster struck. One large manufacturer announced plans to stop dumping rejected jars because it intended to crush everything for recycling instead. Another company followed shortly afterward. Within months, nearly every supplier disappeared. Many predicted Callum's small business would collapse. Instead of panicking, he smiled. For 10 years, while others had focused on disposal, he had quietly accumulated hundreds of thousands of perfectly usable jars. The enormous inventory everyone mocked suddenly became one of the largest privately restored glass collections in the region. As shortages increased nationwide, demand for reusable food containers soared. Orders flooded in faster than Callum could process them. Yet success created another challenge. Customers increasingly requested finished pantry products instead of empty jars. They loved the elegant containers and wanted quality foods already inside them. Callum hesitated. Creating a food company required recipes, inspections, branding, logistics, and far more investment than he possessed. It would have been easier to remain a packaging supplier. But Meredith reminded him that fear had never built anything meaningful. So together with local families, Callum launched a small pantry brand focused on handcrafted preserves, fruit spreads, pickled vegetables, infused honey, herb blends, baking mixes, and traditional comfort foods sourced entirely from nearby farms. Every product celebrated second chances. Slightly misshapen vegetables that supermarkets rejected became flavorful pickles. Imperfect berries transformed into rich preserves. Extra herbs became fragrant seasoning blends. Every jar represented something rescued from unnecessary waste. The company adopted a simple promise: beautiful food deserved beautiful redemption. Customers embraced the idea with astonishing enthusiasm. People weren't merely buying jam or pickles. They were supporting struggling farmers, reducing waste, preserving traditional recipes, and participating in a movement proving that appearance never determined value. Newspaper reporters visited the once-forgotten property beneath brilliant afternoon skies and marveled at the transformation. The same fields where trucks had dumped unwanted glass now featured flourishing gardens, restored barns, cheerful workers, and rows of gleaming pantry products ready for shipment. Visitors couldn't believe the breathtaking change. The most emotional moment arrived when one of the former factory managers visited unexpectedly during a community open house. Years earlier, he had signed countless disposal orders sending rejected jars onto Meredith's land without a second thought. Walking among thousands of polished containers now filled with colorful homemade foods, he struggled to hide his emotions. He admitted that his company had measured everything through spreadsheets and efficiency while completely overlooking human creativity. Callum greeted him warmly without resentment. Forgiveness had become the foundation of everything he built. Instead of blaming those who discarded the jars, he thanked them for unknowingly delivering the opportunity that changed countless lives. The manager later arranged introductions to several manufacturers interested in supporting sustainable packaging initiatives, opening even greater opportunities for the growing business. As orders expanded across neighboring states, Callum refused to move operations into a distant industrial city. He insisted the company remain rooted where hope first began. New jobs appeared throughout Ashton Ridge. Young adults who once planned to leave discovered meaningful careers close to home. Elderly residents earned income sharing treasured family recipes. Farmers gained reliable buyers for crops that supermarkets often rejected because they weren't perfectly shaped. The property that had once embarrassed the town gradually became its greatest source of pride. Business analysts estimated the Pantry brand's value at more than $400,000 after a major regional grocery partnership dramatically increased distribution. Yet whenever reporters asked Callum what success meant, he never mentioned revenue. He pointed toward Meredith smiling beneath the afternoon sunshine while teaching children how to polish recycled jars. He pointed toward neighbors laughing together while preparing recipes that might otherwise have disappeared forever. He pointed toward shelves lined with products representing thousands of second chances. Those, he explained, were the true measure of wealth. Years after the final truck stopped delivering unwanted jars, visitors still wandered across the property amazed that beauty had grown from something everyone else abandoned. Parents brought children to learn that waste often begins with perspective rather than reality. Schools organized educational visits highlighting sustainability, entrepreneurship, and compassion. Every polished jar quietly reminded people that value is sometimes hidden beneath scratches others refuse to see. Before this story comes to its close, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment telling us about a time when someone overlooked your potential or when you gave a person or an opportunity a second chance that changed everything. Your story may inspire someone reading the comments today. As another bright afternoon settled gently across Ashton Ridge, Callum stood outside the old barn that had once been filled only with forgotten glass. Now it overflowed with purpose, friendship, gratitude, and hope. Meredith looked across the thriving gardens, smiling with quiet pride as families worked together beneath the warm daylight, proving that kindness can outlast hardship and that forgiveness often produces blessings no amount of bitterness ever could. The mountains of unwanted jars had disappeared, replaced by shelves carrying nourishment into homes across the country, each one reflecting not perfection but possibility. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember, the world may sometimes label people, dreams, or opportunities as ruined, but the greatest miracles often begin the moment someone brave enough chooses to see value where everyone else sees waste.